into custody tonight.
And everybody at school is gonna know, right?
A promise from you that there is no more lies, right?
No, this is it. This is I don't know why you even think I would kill my friend.
Come on. Brian, she was not supposed to die.
I don't.
You didn't
How did you
mean for
feel
that
about
to happen.
Cassie? Tell us how you feel about Cassie dying.
I'm extremely sad.
High school student Cassie Jo Stoddart had the world ahead of her when her life was cut short by two of her classmates, Torey Adamcik and Brian Draper, who wanted to become world-famous killers. Mimicking what they'd in the cult horror classic Scream, the two boys stalked and filmed Stoddart before stabbing her to death in September 2006. The killers even had the gall to document their crime on video, a move that would later come back to haunt them. Welcome back to True Stories. Join our family in exploring some of the most twisted true crime cases. As always, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. Now, let's get into it. On September 22, 2006, 16-year-old Cassie Jo Stoddart was house-sitting for her aunt and uncle just a few miles away from her own residence in Pocatello, Idaho. Stoddart was known to family and friends as a responsible straight-A student. She didn't do anything but attend school, the sheriff responsible for her case later said. She didn't do anything but be friends with somebody else, and just about everybody. That night, Stoddart invited her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, to join her at the house. Beckham, in turn, invited his friend Torey Adamcik, who brought along Brian Draper. The two boys were Pocatello-born, and, unknown to anyone, were keeping a death list that contained the names of several of their friends and classmates. One such name was Cassie Jo Stoddart. The two boys spent about 2 hours at the house before leaving. But unbeknownst to Stoddart, Draper had unlocked the basement door, so that he and Adamcik could sneak back in later that same evening. When the two boys returned, they parked down the street, put on dark clothing, gloves, and masks. Then, they snuck back into the residence through the basement door, while Beckham and Stoddart watched TV in the living room. Draper and Adamcik proceeded to make loud noises in an effort to lure Stoddart and Beckham down to the basement to scare them. But when that didn't work, the pair located the circuit breaker and turned off all the power in the house. This frightened Cassie Jo Stoddart, whose boyfriend later remarked that one of the family dogs kept staring down the basement stairs, barking and growling at what seemed to be nothing. Beckham consequently called his mother, hoping to get permission to spend the night, so Stoddart could be at ease. But Beckham's mother refused and offered, instead, to have Stoddart spend the night at the Beckham house. But ever responsible, Stoddart declined, saying she needed to be there for the pets, and the home left in her care. This decision would ultimately prove fatal. At around 10:30 p.m., Beckham's mother picked him up, leaving Cassie Jo Stoddart at the house alone. On his way home, Beckham called Adamcik's cell phone to see where he and Draper had gone, hoping to meet up with them later that night. But Beckham could barely hear Adamcik when he answered, as he was talking in a low whisper on the phone. Beckham assumed that meant they were out watching a movie. Of course, they were still in the basement below Stoddart. For a second time, the boys threw the circuit breaker and waited, hoping Stoddart would come down to turn the lights back on. When she didn't, the killers went upstairs. Draper was armed with a dagger-style weapon, and Adamcik had a hunting-type knife in his hands. Draper opened and slammed a closet door, hoping to scare Stoddart, who was asleep on the couch. When this attempt to frighten her failed, Draper and Adamcik attacked. The two stabbed her approximately 30 times, 12 of which were fatal. Forensic pathologist Dr. Charles Garrison later testified that most of the fatal wounds struck the right ventricle of Stoddart's heart. The killers left her body to bleed out and fled. The following day, Beckham and Adamcik met up while Beckham repeatedly tried to call Stoddart. Her body wasn't recovered until 2 days after her murder on September 24, 2006. The responding officers noted that Stoddart's body was covered in blood and riddled with deep lacerations and stab wounds. It didn't take long for investigators to determine that Torey Adamcik and Brian Draper were the last people to see Cassie Jo Stoddart alive. Torey Adamcik was interrogated that same day, and he initially told detectives that he and Draper had gone to the house at approximately 8:30 p.m. to attend a party. When the party never materialized, he and Draper left the house to catch a film, after which both boys slept at Adamcik's house. But when the detectives probed Adamcik about the movie he had reportedly seen that night, he couldn't remember anything about it.
Okay, between 6:30 and 7,
Yeah.
you left your house.
Yeah, and I went and picked up Brian.
Probably, yeah, between 6:30 and 7.
Okay. And
Picked up Brian.
you were driving your
Yeah.
that red, is it Jeep?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's your car, you get back and forth in. So you drove that to Brian's house
I picked him up, and then
about around what time do you think it was?
I don't know, maybe 7:20, between 7 and 7:30.
3 days later, Brian Draper led law enforcement to a stash of evidence he'd buried in the Black Rock Canyon area. The evidence included 2 dagger-style knives with sheaths, a silver and black-handled knife with a smooth blade, a folding knife, a red and white mask, latex gloves, and a damning videotape that contained footage of both killers explicitly planning Stoddart's murder. The tape also included footage of them later reacting to having Kothas.
This is not a fucking joke.
I'm shaking.
I stabbed her in the throat and I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Oh, fuck. That felt like fucking real. I mean, it went by so fast.
Shut the fuck up, we gotta get our act straight.
Okay.
Transcript of the tape, which was later read out loud in court, demonstrated the callousness of the pair, with Draper also exclaiming how they'll make history by becoming notorious serial killers. They reference notorious serial killers like the Hillside Strangler, the Zodiac Killer, and Ted Bundy. They also mentioned being inspired by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the Columbine High School shooters, and the horror film Scream, in which several teenagers are killed by a mutual friend. Yeah, the evidence
Evidence at this point to prove that.
We found the evidence.
We also have some overwhelming evidence, trace evidence, that type of stuff that's going to prove that they did it as well. It's not just
You're going to
hearsay.
be placed into custody tonight. Okay?
You're
I'm
gonna
sorry,
be-
that's the way it goes.
You're going to
but
be
that's-
charged with first-degree murder.
Okay. But like I said before you say anything, I encourage you. If you talk to your attorney, you should do that.
They want
We
you
know
to
the
cooperate.
details. We've got the knife that you used. We've got the masks that you used. We've got the videotape. We've got it. There's a tape up in there that you buried.
On April 17, 2007, Brian Draper was found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. One down, one more to go, Stoddart's grandfather Paul Cisneros said at the time. Her mother, Anna Stoddart, merely said, "I'm just happy. My baby got her justice." Torey Adamcik's trial began on May 31, 2007, and he was convicted of the same charges on June 8, 2007. Both received life sentences in prison without the possibility for parole plus 30 years to life for the conspiracy behind their brutal slaying. Adamcik and Draper are still serving their sentences at the Idaho State Correctional Institution. In September 2010, an appeal was filed on behalf of Adamcik and one for Draper in April 2011. Their initial appeals were denied, and as of this writing, both killers are appealing their convictions in higher courts. We've come to the end. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. Till next time.